So this set is going to have 7 cookies, and it's got an ice cream sundae. It's going to have a double scooped, well, kind of a double scooped ice cream cone here. It's going to have the chocolate mint and some strawberry ice cream in a cone. This is going to be a chocolate chip cookie. This is going to be a lemon popsicle. This is going to be a chocolate dipped cone, a cupcake, and then a snow cone over here on this cookie. So we'll have lots of colors, and we'll have some sprinkles, and this is going to be a new set for a workshop at the Cookie Decorating Studio, and for take-home kits as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of outline with edible marker the outlines here to these sets. And so the first one I'm going to do is going to be this little dipped cone here. And so what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be trying to make sure I have all of this in the frame, is I'm just going to come up into this section here that's part of the scoop, and I'm just going to come up a little bit into this area. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to come right here to this corner, and I'm going to do a line across like that. So the way this is going to work is the little swirls of ice cream are going to kind of go up in a diagonal. And so we've got this section here and this section at the bottom that's going to be connected. So I'm going to start from this indentation, and let me go ahead and I've got some pictures here to help me. So I'm going to start from this line, and I'm going to go down like that. And then the same thing here. I'm going to go here and then here to do those little swirls of the ice cream. And then it'll be brown because it's going to be chocolate dipped. We really don't have to do any outlining on this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and move this one out of the way and get my cupcake here. Now on this cupcake, we've got this curve here and then a little tiny curve over here. So where these little curves end and meet up with this straight line diagonal, we're just going to do a line across. Okay. And that's really all we're going to do, because the way this design is going to work is we're going to flood the bottom, and we're going to do some polka dots. We're going to let that set. The top we're going to flood white, and then we're going to come back and do some cute little decorative swirls on top, and then we'll go in later and do the definition details on the little cup here. Okay, so this little snow cone here, this is going to be right in here in this area. We're just going to kind of scoop down and then back up. Okay. And then we're just going to kind of, doesn't have to be exactly the same. We might make it a little bit off. So we'll just come in here and we'll do a little line up and a little line up like that. And this is going to be blue, white, and red, and then we'll put some sanding sugar over the top so it looks like ice. All right. So then we're going to take our ice cream cone, and then on our ice cream cone, this is going to have 2 dips, and what we're going to do here is this first one, we're just going to come in here and we're just going to kind of scoop up. And it doesn't have to be exactly we just want it to kind of be some sort of definition to it, and that'll give us a little bit of a guide. And then we're going to do this one as well. We're going to kind of scoop down for our 2 different flavors. This bottom one's going to be strawberry, and the one on top is going to be like a chocolate mint. And then this is going to be our big sundae. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top where there's a cherry up here at the top. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to kind of go around. We're going to draw out that cherry. Okay. And then this is going to be a glass container. And so what we're going to do, you've got these 2 little side bumps here on each side where it connects to the bottom of the glass. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of come in from the top of this bump. Okay, and we're just going to kind of swing over and swing over like that. Then we're going to come up a little bit, kind of even. You want to make it kind of even with the top of these right here. And that's going to be where this middle section will be. And what we'll do is we'll put a little dot here in the middle to kind of give us something to aim for. And what we're going to do is we're just going to swing around and come down to that point. Swing around and come down to that point. Okay. And what we're going to do next is up here, there's this little indentation underneath the cherry. So it kind of scoops down and there's a dent on each side of the cookie. And so where that indentation is, we're going to come down a little bit and we're just going to kind of scoop. And we're just going to do a little bit of different shapes here. Like that. Doesn't have to be exact, you just want to kind of put a little bit of guidelines there. And then up where the little dent is, above where you did your little wavy lines here, we're just going to kind of come in and we're just going to kind of swoop over, and swoop over. And that'll just be a little guide for us for when we're doing our icing. And that pretty much is going to be all of our edible marker outlining everything. All right, so let's see here. Let's go ahead and let's just do our chocolate chip cookie first. And we're just going to start outlining everything. So we're going to take our beige icing, and I'm just going to give it a good mix here in the bag. Make sure it's good and mixed up. Now I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm just going to cut the tip of this, just the very tip. Okay. So I'm going to come in here on my round cookie, and I'm going to squeeze, and as I squeeze, I'm going to hold the tip of the bag up in the air above the cookie surface, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of pressure at the top of the bag, and I'm going to move around and just guide that line as it falls out of the tip of the bag and lay it around the edge. Now, if you order the take-home kit, you have the option to get one of these scribe tools and or a boo-boo stick, which those are good for the kids because it's plastic, and you can scrape off anything that you've done if you're not happy with it and go back in and fix anything that you need to fix. Okay, so we're going to outline the round cookie, and then we're going to go ahead and take our ice cream cone. I'm going to move these out of the way. We're going to take our ice cream cone, and we're going to go ahead and we're just going to outline the bottom with the same color of beige. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of go underneath where we did our little scoops. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and take our dipped cone, and we're going to outline the bottom with the same beige. So we're just going to come in here and go across where we did our edible marker line, and then we're going to do the bottom. All right, so next we're going to take our white icing, and we're just going to give it a good mix. Make sure it's good and mixed up. And again, I'm just going to take some scissors, and I'm just going to cut the tip of this bag, just the tip. Okay, and I'm going to take my snow cone here, and this is going to be a paper cup, so I'm going to squeeze out a line of white over where I did my edible marker, and I'm going to cut this just a little bit more so I can get a little bit more icing on my line here. There we go, a little bit thicker. That's better. And then I'm going to come down and outline the bottom. See, that's a good example. So there was a little air pocket in the icing, so I'm just going to take my scribe tool and clean that off. And I'm going to lay right over the top of that and just continue on. Okay. All right, so I got that done. And I guess what I'll do also is I'll go ahead and outline over the lines that I drew with some white, and then I'll go ahead and go over the top with that white so I can go and get that portion outlined as well. Okay. After you do those sections in white, you're going to take your cupcake, and again we're just going to go right over the line that we drew with the marker and some white, and then we're going to go ahead and outline the entire top portion in white. After that, we're going to take our mint green and we're just going to mix it up real good in the bag. Hey, sweetie. I am. I'm doing a live on Facebook, and I'm also recording for YouTube. So I'll probably be done in about 40 minutes or so.
40 minutes?
Oh, I know. All right, and then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut the tip of the bag. Clay, will you shut that door, baby? Thank you. All right, and then we're going to come in here and we're going to outline the bottom of our cupcake with this mint green. And then we're going to take our ice cream cone and we're going to go ahead and outline our little scoops here we did. And then we're going to go up and outline the top portion of this cookie with the mint green. After that, we're going to take our pink icing, and again, we're just going to mix it up in the bag and make sure it's all mixed in good. And this bag has already been cut, so I'm just going to clean the top off with my wipe. And then I'm just going to come in here on this bottom layer and I'm going to outline this little section here in pink. And then I'm going to come over to my sundae. And this little open section on each side between where I have my lines that I drew, so these little side sections here, I'm going to take my pink and I'm just going to outline that little section on each side. In the pink. After that, I'm going to take my light blue. I've got two different blues, and this is going to be the light blue. And again, I'm just going to mix it up really good. And I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut the tip. All right, and so what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to outline this middle section that I did with my edible marker. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to trace over what I did with the marker. Okay, and then I'm going to come out and do this side here. Just going to swing it on around. Then I'm going to begin to follow the shape of the cookie. I'm going to come on down, do the bottom. And then go around the other side. Then I'm going to take my dark brown, my brown, and again, just mix it up real good. And then cut the tip off with some scissors. And then what we're going to do here is this little section that we drew out. We're going to come in here and we're going to do these little scoops. And then we're going to come down and we're just going to, you don't have to do exactly what you did with your marker. It was just kind of a guide. And then come in there and do those little lines. Then we're going to take our little popsicle here and we're going to just cut across where the little stick is, and then we're going to come down and outline the bottom in that dark brown. Then we're going to take our yellow, and again, just mix the bag real good. And the reason why we do that is because when the icing sits in these bags for a little bit, the water kind of settles. And so you just want to make sure that when you go to squeeze the icing out, it doesn't just kind of pour out with water. You want to make sure you mix that water back in. So again, on this little popsicle, we're going to take our yellow and we're just going to simply outline the rest of this cookie. So again, you want to hold the bag up. When you're doing big areas, you can really hold it up pretty well. And you're just going to give it a constant amount of pressure at the top of the bag. And outline that outside edge. And you're going to take your blue, your dark blue, just give it a good little mix in the bag. And then on our snow cone, we're just going to come over here and we're going to outline this right hand side over here in some blue. And then we're going to take our red and we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Just going to come in here and outline this other side with some red. And then the last thing we're going to outline is going to be our little chocolate dipped cone here. Got some icing on my hand. So what we're going to do on this is we're going to start at this top section and we're going to outline this top portion. Then we're going to come down and we're going to outline this portion here. And then we're going to go ahead and do the other two sections. And we pretty much have everything outlined. I forgot we should go ahead and also, sorry, I have to keep moving this stuff around. We should also go ahead and outline the cherry with our red. Let's go ahead and outline that cherry with the red. And then let's go ahead and do a circle in the middle of that with the red. Okay, so now we've got everything outlined, and so we're going to start the process of flooding. And so the first color we're going to use to flood is going to be our beige. And we're going to go ahead and take care of these two cookies here, our ice cream cone and then our dipped cone. Now when we flood, instead of holding it up and letting the icing fall, we're actually going to, sorry I bumped the stand there. We're going to squeeze with good amount of pressure at the top of the bag. And we're going to push that icing up next to our outline. Hey, sweetie. And then we're going to go ahead and coat and cover this middle here. Did you need me, baby?
I really need it. Like, easier for me.
You can't right now. I'm in the middle of recording a video, baby.
Okay.
I'll bring it to you as soon as I'm done. Then you're going to take your scribe tool and you're going to come in here and you're just going to agitate the surface to smooth it out. And you do the same thing on the ice cream cone over here. You're just going to squeeze a good amount at the top of the bag. You're going to hold the tip close to the surface. You're not going to touch the surface with the plastic though. You're just going to leave a little bit of space so that as you squeeze that icing, it kind of forces it out into a wide line. And you're just going to touch icing to icing, and you're going to go all the way to the middle. And then you can take your scribe tool and come in here and just agitate the surface to get that to smooth out. Now you can only do that technique while the icing is still good and wet. Once it starts to crust, so in about a minute to 90 seconds, you're not going to be able to do that because it will have formed a little bit of a crust to it. So if you try to smooth it out with the scribe tool, at that point it's just going to start to get kind of crunchy looking and it's not going to stay smooth. So you have to do that quickly. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move those out of the way, and we're going to take our chocolate chip cookie. And I usually just twist the top of the bag to retighten it, and then you can squeeze it to where you've twisted it. And we're just going to come in here and we're going to squeeze a good amount of pressure at the top. And we're going to start working our way around the inside edge of this cookie. And you can kind of push it around with the bag. But again, you don't want your bag scraping the cookie. You want just enough space for the icing to come out and spread out as you make your way around the surface. And you're going to touch icing to icing as you go around the inside of your flood. And you're just going to go ahead and coat and cover the entire surface. You don't want to hold that bag high because then you're going to start piling on too much icing. So hold it close. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pick it up and I'm going to give it a little bit of a shake and a little bit of a tap, and that will smooth that out. Okay. So now I'm going to take my dark brown and I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to add some little off-shaped chocolate chips. Just randomly all over. Because who doesn't like chocolate chips, right? And then you're going to take a little tiny bit of your black and we're just going to come in here, we're just going to add just a tiny little speck of black. And it just kind of gives it a little bit more definition. Just tiny, tiny, tiny little black specks. Okay. All right, and so then we're gonna take our dipped cone here, and with our dark brown, we're gonna go ahead and flood in this top section here. And this middle section here. So just squeeze at the top of the bag with a firm amount of pressure. Go ahead and fill this completely in. And then you can take your scribe tool and you can come in here and agitate the surface to smooth that out. We're going to take a little bit of our white icing and we're just going to come in here and we're just going to do a little bit of a highlight with some white. Just going to kind of squeeze a little line right on top of that brown. See that okay? And we're also going to go ahead while we have our brown. I'm going to move this cookie And we're gonna go ahead and flood our little popsicle stick here with our brown. And again, you can take your scribe tool and smooth that out. And then we're going to take a little bit of our light beige, and right on top of that brown, we're just going to come in here and do a little swoop with that light brown right on top of the dark brown. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our yellow. We're going to go ahead and just flood in this top of our popsicle. This is a little lemon popsicle. So we're just going to come in here and we're just going to squeeze at the top of the bag. And we're going to just flood the entire top portion of this cookie with this lemon yellow. Y'all see how I'm holding it close so that I'm forcing that icing to stay low and wide. And I'm just going to coat the entire upper portion with that yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and pick this up and give it a little bit of a shake, a little bit of a tap, and that will smooth right out for me. Alright, so next I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my cupcake and my ice cream cone. Move this one over here. And I'm going to take my white icing. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to flood the bottom of my snow cone here with some white. I'm going to go ahead and cut this a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and just flood in the snow cone cup here. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a shake and tap. To smooth that out. And then again on my little cupcake here. go ahead and squeeze that white right up next to my outline. And I'm just going to continue on around. And then I'm going to pick this up and give it a shake. A little bit of a tap. There's one little spot here. To smooth out with my scribe tool. Okay. All right, next I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my ice cream cone and my sundae. And I'm going to take my pink icing and I'm going to go ahead and oh, you know what? I forgot. I forgot. We need to do this first. Back up. So we need to take our dipped cone and our snow cone and our beige. We need to do this first before we do that. So clean off the tip of your beige icing bag. And on this cone here, we're going to go straight across and we're going to do some thin lines. And we're just going to go straight across the cone there. And then on this one, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to move this. I'm trying to make sure that it's in frame and it's not blurry. So we're going to do diagonal lines. Like that. So while we're waiting for that to set up, let's go ahead and take our sundae and let's take our light blue, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll just fill in this middle section here with the blue. Okay. And we'll take a little bit of our white and we'll just come in here and we'll add a little bit of a reflection with some of that white while it's still nice and wet. I'll go ahead and do a little bit here on this side too. I got a little ahead of myself with the pink. I forgot. We got to do this portion first before we can do that pink on those cones. So let's go ahead and go back to our cones, our ice cream cone and our cupcake. Sorry, I jumped around a little bit there, but I lost track of the steps. I apologize. So let's take our cupcake and our ice cream cone, and we're going to get our mint green. And what we're going to do, we're going to flood in the bottom of our cupcake here with our mint green. Okay, so we're just going to come in here and flood this in with our mint green. Now we don't want to pick this up and shake it because that white is trying to settle and crust up, and so if we were to pick this up and shake it, it would probably crack that white icing that's already formed a crust. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to take our scribe tool and we're just going to come in here and we're going to, once we flood it in, we're going to take that and we're just going to swirl it around and agitate the surface with that needle. And we're going to smooth it out that way. It is a pretty big surface, so you might have to kind of do it for a little bit just to get it to smooth out. All right, so once we have that, we are going to take our, let's see, what color do we want to do this in? Let's take some pink. Okay, we're going to take our pink icing and we're just going to go right over into this green, and we're just going to kind of push in gently some little polka dots. So you're just going to kind of push in that pink right into that wet mint green. Just going to get a little bit of pressure just to kind of push it in there a little bit. Not too much. So just go ahead and do the polka dots. And if you need to, you can just kind of take your scribe tool and tap it in there and give it a little bit of a wiggle to get them to settle down a little bit more. It really just depends on the consistency of the icings that you're using. If they're both about the same, you probably wouldn't have to do this. but that green is just a little bit thicker than this pink, so I have to help it along a little bit with my scribe tool. Okay, so I got the polka dots. All right, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our mint green and we're gonna do the same thing, the top of our ice cream cone, and we're just gonna flood. I'm gonna flood in this section of green. And just give it a good squeeze and coat and cover the entire section here with that mint green. All right, and then we're going to take our scribe tool and we're just going to come in here like we did on the cupcake, and we're just going to swirl that around. You don't have to completely get it to smooth out because it is ice cream after all. And then while that green is still wet, we're going to take a little bit of black and we're just going to add in our little chips here. Okay. Amy, I use what kind are these? They're just the master bags you can get on Amazon for the most part. That's what I use. But I'll also use Truly Mad Plastics bags. I use their bags, especially their large ones, whenever I make big batches of icing and I need to squeeze it into all these little bags that I make for my workshops. The Truly Mad Plastics, they're a little bit more thicker, and but the only thing is that the tips of them, sometimes you can't quite get a good clean cut on the very end, like you can these master bags. These little master bags are good for making small bags of icing that you're not going to have to use over and over again. The Truly Mad Plastics are good for larger amounts that you might have to like squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, because they'll hold up better. All right, so then we're going to take our beige again and we're going to finish up our little lines on our little cones here. So we're going to just do straight up and down on these cones. A little dipped cone here. Okay, and then we're going to do diagonal here on our ice cream cone. And the reason why I waited is so that those first lines could kind of set up a bit, so that it just didn't all kind of blob together where they connected. You're welcome, Amy. All right, so let's go ahead and do the rest of our blue on our glass here. So we're just going to take our light blue and we're going to go ahead and flood in the rest of our glass container here. So I'm just going to focus on one side at a time. I'm going to go ahead and do this side over here. And then I'm going to go over to the other side. And then I'm going to do the bottom. Okay. And so while that is still wet, I'm going to take my white icing. I'm getting a wet wipe to clean off my bag. Make sure it's good and cleaned off. Okay. And so I'm just going to come over here to this side with my white, and I'm just going to kind of swing around a little bit for that little reflection. I'm going to take my scribe tool and kind of smooth that down a little bit better. Okay. Down here at the bottom, just going to kind of go around. And then I'm going to start on this side. I'm going to go up. Too. And then if you need to get it to smooth out a bit, you can use your scribe tool. So just wherever you feel like you want to put a little white, go ahead and do that while that blue is still wet. Okay. Isn't that cute? So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to let that set up. So we're going to get our little snow cone here. And we're going to need our dark blue, our white, and our red. So I'm going to go ahead and take my white. I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to take my white, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to flood in the middle section. And I don't want to shake it because I've got this section at the bottom that's doing its thing. It's already crusted over, so if I shake this cookie, it'd probably crack. So I'm just going to come in here and smooth this out a bit with my scribe tool. Okay, and then I'm going to take my blue and I'm going to go ahead and flood right up next to that. And if you need to smooth that out a bit, you can do that with your scribe tool. And then I'm going to take my red and I'm going to fill in this other side. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. Smooth it out with my scribe. Okay. So I've got some little sanding sugar sprinkles. So I'm just going to take those and I'm just going to drop those right on top of that wet icing here at the top. So don't be afraid to go ahead and pile it on because you want it to look like it's a snow cone. And a lot of this sanding sugar is just going to dissolve and sink right down into that. So it's just going to end up looking like this really cool surface. But you can see those colors through it. Okay, and then if you need to kind of tap it in some places with your scribe tool, you can do that while the icing is still wet. And then if you need to pick some up and place them that may have fallen, just get a little dab of wet icing, and you can pick them up and place them with that wet icing on the tip of your scribe tool. I would just make sure you use that white icing. Alright, looks like all of them. So there's our little snow cone, or ice cream, well, snow cone. I'll get it right here in a minute. Thank you, Amy. I was trying to think of another something to go with this set. All right, so let's go ahead and finally do our pink. So we're going to take our ice cream cone and our sundae here and our pink icing. And we're going to come in here and we're going to flood this section here. I'm not going to worry too much about getting all the way up in there, because I can always take my scribe tool and push it around. So I'm just going to come in here and flood with that pink. I'm going to take my scribe tool and I'm just going to swirl that around and push it up to make a good connection. With that mint green, and then also down in here in my where my cone is. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. I'm just going to take my pink and I'm just going to flood in this section. I'm not going to worry about getting too connected to that blue. I can always push it up next to it with my scribe tool. Okay, so I'm just going to take my scribe tool and kind of swirl around and help it along. I think that's all connected. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to see since I'm at a little bit of an angle. move this out of the way. Kind of move some stuff out of the way here. I'm going to take my brown icing, and I'm going to go ahead and flood in my other two sections here on my dipped cone. I'm just going to smooth that out with my scribe tool. Okay. And then again, I'm going to take my white and I'm just going to add, I'm going to come over here on this side on these. A little bit of reflection there. A little bit of reflection here. Okay. Chocolate dipped cone there. And then I'm going to take my brown and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flood in this section here. I'm going to kind of go over the top of that pink just a bit. Just going to kind of use the bag to smooth it out a bit. Let me come down a little bit more right there. Alright, and I've got a little cup of sprinkles here. So I'm just going to take some of these sprinkles and I'm just going to drop them right over the top of that pink and brown icing. Okay, and I got one that kind of went over into the glass, so I'm just going to kind of flip it over. I'm going to tap these down a little bit. This blue one kind of got away. Place it there. gonna take my red and I'm gonna go ahead and fill in my cherry at the top here. Turn it a little bit so I can see a little bit better. I'm going to take my white icing and I'm going to go ahead and squeeze out some white and swing it on around. I take my scribe tool and just kind of help smooth that out. And I'm going to take my white, I'm going to take my little lemonade popsicle here. And I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to do a little bit of swoopy whoops at the top here. And that white. And then I'm just going to flood that in. A little piece down here that's coming down a little bit. And then I'm going to take my scribe tool and I'm just going to kind of smooth that out a bit. Might go ahead and just connect that right there. Make sure I have the top of this covered. All right. And then I'm going to take my sprinkles and I'm just going to place those on top of that wet icing here. take my scribe tool and I'm just going to kind of tap those. Tap those so that they're good and connected into that icing. And again, here's a little white one that can move over. Tap these in a little bit. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and take my white and I'm gonna just begin to flood in this last little section. And I'm gonna go just right over the bottom of that cherry. And then I'm gonna take my scribe tool and I'm gonna turn this around so I can see a little bit better and smooth this out. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go over here to my little cupcake. And I'm going to take my mint green. And I'm going to make sure that the tip of my bag is clean. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do a little bit of a zigzag. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and go down and re-outline and back up. And then I'm just going to kind of come in here and do some little lines. And you want them to kind of have a little bit of a diagonal look to them, kind of coming down. like that. And then I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to start at the top, and I'm just going to kind of do a dot. I'm going to swing it around, and then I'm just going to kind of go back and forth with this little swirl. And I'm holding it pretty high up. And I'm just going to kind of swirl back and forth. With this yellow. And one last little curly Q here at the bottom. See that okay? I'm going to add a little pink there. A little pink here. And then you can also, if you want, you can add a couple little sprinkles. Not many, just a few. Go. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish off our ice cream cone here with a couple little details. So I'm just going to take my pink icing here. And I'm just going to kind of hold it up and swing it around. And I'm just going to kind of swoop in here and do a little extra little details here with my pink around the bottom. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my mint green. You want to make sure that the tip of your bag is clean. And so I'm just going to come in here with my green. And I'm going to go ahead and re-outline around the top. Like that. And then I'm just going to kind of go around like I did with the pink. And do a couple of swirls. So I'm gonna pull all these down. And then the last thing we're gonna do on our little sundae here I'll move this one over here so y'all can see it. All right, so on our sundae, we're gonna take our white and then right underneath our little cherry here, just gonna do a little detail in the white. So I'm just gonna do some little lines here. Same thing on this side. Some little lines right on top. So I'm gonna hold that up so you can see a little bit better. Okay, and so that finishes off our set. We got our chocolate dipped cone, got our chocolate chip cookie, we got our little snow cone, and our cupcake. And I just dipped my hand in that. I'm going to go back over it again. Hang on. I smudged it. I smudged the outline. Let me fix it. Okay. So our little ice cream cone here, I'll have to go in and fix that. Our sundae, our lemon popsicle. All right, and then that's it. So once these dry, I'll take some pictures and then I'll post the next workshop with them. And I've got several workshops that I've posted coming up. And then of course you can grab the take-home kits for those as well. Thanks for watching, you guys. Have a good night.